Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting ICPS monthly webinar. This month, we're going to be doing a behind the scenes with Matt Miller, flytrapstore.com. And if you are attending this live, thank you very much. This was the first meeting. We've been doing these for about 2 years. This is the first meeting that we opened it up to the public. So you don't have to be an ICPS member, but we do enjoy our ICPS members because that's how we keep things running. But if you're attending this live and you have questions for him, we want this to be interactive. We want you to ask questions. Please type them into the chat box below, and I'm going to read them to Matt, just so it's a little bit organized. And with that, Matt, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit before you do your show and tell?
Okay, my name's Matt Miller. I started flytrapcare.com in 2008 and then opened Flytrap Store in 2009. I've been growing carnivorous plants since the 80s. But like most people, when I got my first flytrap, I killed it, picked them back up in the mid 2000s and started growing again and been growing ever since. I started learning tissue culture and propagating Venus flytraps primarily in 2008 or so, and then opened Flytrap Store in 2009. And Leah, my wife, works with me on it, so it's co-ownership. And yeah, we share responsibilities, taking care of everything in terms of propagation, orders, everything you can think of involved with running a nursery. So we originated in Ashland, Oregon, and now we're in southeast Missouri, about an hour south of St. Louis. So anything else I should mention?
Well, when you were talking, I was thinking we should also mention that in addition to the monthly webinars, last year we did a lot of roundtables, and you have participated in roundtables. So if you guys want to learn more about flytrap breeding or care, you guys can head over to the ICPS YouTube channel. I just went to a nursery this morning, and they had Venus flytraps for $7.99, and I would say there would be no more than 2 live leaves on these flytraps that were in the dingiest, darkest corner of the nursery.
That's usually how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, good. So Matt, if you want to show us your inside setup with your TC and shipping and everything.
Right. So this is the most boring spot in terms of running the business. Behind me over my left shoulder is the flow hood I work in. That's where I do my propagation. I think I'm going to switch the camera around here real quick. And so we moved from Oregon to Missouri, and I had to move a lot of stuff, including a lot of plants in this flow hood. We're in a not great situation in terms of space for indoor stuff. We're actually, and this is my parents' porch, the house I grew up in Missouri. So we kind of squeezed everything in here tight. This is the flow hood, some tissue culture supplies over here, boxing for packing orders. There's one of the tissue culture racks, and a lot of these plants, this is the final container they'll go in, and those will be ready to pot out probably in another month. On top, this entire rack on top here is all baby fly traps, started from seed in December, and looking forward to putting some of those in soil later this, probably late summer, early fall. Those guys will be ready to go in soil, and I can evaluate. Made some really cool crosses last year. It was an epic seed year for us. So yeah, more boxes. We try to recycle as much as we can. So these are a lot of boxes that we get stuff in, and then we reuse them to ship orders. This is a little packing station and packing material over here in the box, mostly used newspapers and that kind of thing. So that is the most boring part of the tour, especially considering there are no plants in here other than the tissue culture ones. But I wanted to show a little bit of the behind the scenes operation here indoors. So this is where Leah packs up plants, and I do most of the soil and seed orders and Sarracenia. So I'm going to head outside now to the big greenhouse, which is where most of our inventory for the store is. I might have to drop because I'll have to switch networks. The property we're on is pretty big. So this is the deck, and we move most of the plants out here during the spring and summer. We've got about a month before the frost ends. That little actually it's an 8x10, I think, greenhouse right there is where Leah works. And over here is the monster greenhouse. So I think I'm going to try switching networks right now. So give me a second because it's probably going to drop.
Okay. We see a cat.
Yeah, we've got a stray cat that just showed up. She's very friendly. Let's see. Let's go this. You there, Kenny?
Yes, we are.
Okay. All right. I'm on a new network and this should last the rest of the tour. So this is the new greenhouse we put up. I actually paid for it, I think, in 2020. We got it delivered in June of 2021. And it took me a full year to get approval from the county and to build it. And then it was I assumed I could probably do this myself, but I ended up hiring somebody to help. So me and one other guy built this thing, and it took us probably 4 months. But it's a dream come true of a greenhouse, 30 feet wide, 108 feet long, and it turned out really well. So I'm pretty happy with it. So a lot of Sarracenia in here, and most of these I'm going to try to move this summer either online or at farmers markets. Various clones, a lot of them are seed growing. An old Flytrap Care Forum user sold his entire collection to me right after we moved here, so I have way more pitcher plants than I ever dreamed I would have. A lot of Flytraps here. I think we have about 8 benches of Flytraps, and all of this is inventory basically that we have that will be, hopefully we can move quite a few this summer. So got Kronos, probably my favorite giant Flytrap, and up on top of the hill when we get up there, I will show all of my mother pots in my personal collection. So this is all inventory for our store. Let's see what we got here. That's a little red shark, one I recently cloned. A lot of red Flytraps back here, maroon monsters, and FTS Incredible Red Hulk. A lot of variety here. Most of these are loosely organized by cultivars. They're not alphabetized down here like I do with my personal collection, but Leah knows where everything is, and that's what's important. So these tall, lanky ones coming up here, they're like bean sprouts right now, but that's whip long snapper. Some African werewolf over here. So I don't know how much time we want to spend looking at all of our inventory. Ooh, Groon, there's a really nice Groon. Probably the best all green cultivar for Flytraps. Some Hurricane Creek whites. This is a clone I grew from seed. Some really nice Sarracenia. A lot of these are complex hybrids from Eric. A lot of flavas too mixed in. And I'm kind of lucky in that I got this April time slot because everything looks perfect right now. The plants all came up. Later in the summer when they start putting up Phyllodia and other pitchers, it kind of pushes everything over. So it doesn't look anywhere near as clean as it does right now with these just pure pitchers on the majority of these, straight up, almost no Phyllodia at the moment. And yeah. So it's a little bit of a, go ahead, Kenny.
Can you talk a little bit about Missouri climate and weather? And yeah, I should say thank you for doing this because we did book you several months ago and I gave you the choice and you're like, oh, April's a great month. So
yeah,
what did the Sarracenia look like in this greenhouse, several months ago?
So greenhouse growing in Missouri is very good. This climate is pretty extreme, really hot and humid summers, and then it's not uncommon to get up into the upper 90s and low 100s. It's not quite as hot as where you're at in Florida, but it is quite warm and humid in the summer. And there are a ton of bugs. So we really try to get most of the plants outside, but you do get some heavy rains, which will knock Sarracenia over. So most of the pitcher plants I try to keep in because they grow pretty good without catching bugs. But the fly traps, I move them out because they grow way better if they catch bugs. And winters here can be extremely cold, but like most of the world, it's kind of gotten warmer. When I was a kid, that was 40 years ago, growing up here, the winters were pretty cold and consistently cold. But since we've been here, we've had, most of November, December, and even into January days that are really, really mild, like 70s, 60s, 70s. We had one bad storm this year, and that's when primarily we had to use the majority of the gas that we used through the winter, which wasn't very much. So I only keep this greenhouse above freezing. Everything in here could take it, but I like to try to baby them a little bit, and they appreciate it. If you don't let them freeze, I think they grow a little better. In Oregon, I would let them freeze, but here I've not let them freeze yet. So, yeah. So yeah, it's pretty extreme both ends. I think the coldest temperature we had here last year was like maybe minus 15 with like a really bad wind chill when we had it. So I was lucky to have the heaters. So there's two heaters in this greenhouse. You can see one in the middle at the far end, and then one up here. And I have them set to kick on at 35. So I think I used about a third of that. I'll move outside and show the big propane tank. So I've got a 1,000-gallon propane tank over here that's plumbed into the greenhouse. And I think it had to run maybe 300 gallons last year to keep everything in here warm, well above freezing anyway. So that's not too bad. But the summer, we've got the wet wall in the back there, and there's a power vent wall behind it that opens up, and the fans circulate the air, and then the three big fans at the end pull one direction and vent out the heat. And this greenhouse can stay surprisingly cool even when it's 100 outside. It'll stay close to what I have the set at to kick on, which is usually between 88 and 92, somewhere in there. I'll keep it. So it's not comfortable for us, but it feels really good for the plants. So, okay. So I guess I'll meander up the hill and show some of my personal collection up there. Oh, before I do that, I'll show the rain system we have too. Let me take a look back here. I'll show so I put in a 2,500-gallon cistern, and I collect the rain off of this roof of this greenhouse and also the nearby shop. And it plumbs into this little water worker, what do they call these? Pressure tanks, I think. And so all the wiring I did and all the plumbing, which was inexperienced, but so everything's plumbed in here, and then I connect the hose over here, and that comes right out of the 2,500-gallon cistern. So it's pure rainwater, which is nice. I do have a 1,000-gallon per day RO unit as backup, and we have had some usually it rains a lot here in Missouri, but the last few years have been exceptionally dry. So I've had to use that RO unit maybe 3 or 4 times since we've been here. But so the entire stretch of this gutter runs to this end, and then I PVC piped it from the other side as well. Ran it down here. It runs underground over to a 2,500-gallon cistern that's all underground. This is the manhole to be able to get down in there, and it's got I think it's a 1/2 or 3/4 horse pump down there. The tank itself is about as big as this building in terms of length. So the backside of this building, almost entirely the tank sits underneath there. So, and just for thoroughness, here's the power vent wall, which ratchets up with a motor there on the back. So, okay. So I think I'll head up the hill now. This is our field. So maybe we can expand one day, cover this whole thing with greenhouses. That'd be a lot of fly traps, but so I'm trying to get up to the hoop house. So if there are any questions, now would be a good time because it's going to take me a minute to get up there.
So the plants that you just showed us, is that all of your for sale plants, or do you have more for sale plants somewhere else?
Yeah, there are more up here. So what I do is I use this hoop house on top of the hill. This is a south facing hill, so it gets full sun all year pretty much. So in the winter, it warms up really fast, and I love working up here in the winter. So I usually bring up anything that needs repotting or anything I want to divide, and I'll bring it up to this hoop house and then work on it throughout the winter. And so essentially everything that you'll see in this hoop house has been repotted since November. So
And
let's see.
is April, do you have the most inventory in April or in the fall?
Yeah, majority inventory comes ready. I think I haven't put a lot of Sarracenia in stock yet, but usually between now and June is probably best. Let's switch this back. Okay, so here we are outside the hoop house. I guess I could have this one was a used hoop house that I bought from the Christmas tree farm nearby. And originally this was also 108 by 30, but they took it down maybe 5 or 6 years ago and couldn't get rid of it. So I bought it and kept it under 60 feet. That way I didn't have to involve the county. So this is a 30 by 60 hoop house that my dad and I threw up panically the first fall we were here because we couldn't get that big greenhouse built. So the majority of the plants on this side, although Sarracenia, this would be the south side to the right, is my personal collection. Everything in the middle is divisions, more or less, that will probably be offered soon. And the same with everything that's on the ground. And then these 4 tables with the white square pots and the thermoform pots are all my Flytrap collection. So I don't know if we want to take a look through the Flytraps or start with the pitcher plants, but I can just take a quick walk around, I guess, since we're by the Flytraps. These are largely alphabetized. There are a few mixed in that aren't alphabetical, but you can see this is B52 starting to put up some of the newer spring traps, looking pretty good, and everything just started flowering. So looking pretty good right now. A2, which is a sibling of B52, looks really good. Vigorous, I like that one a lot. That's been around in cultivation for a while. Dark Night, that's a really nice all red plant. FTS Red Jaw is a fairly new one from us. Let's see. Diablo Rouge. Destroyer, I really like this plant. I think we have some offering now or soon. It's a really nice giant Flytrap, came from Europe. I'm not sure who the original grower is. This is a really nice one from us, FTS Towering Giant. I got that seed, the seed that plant came from longtime ICPS member Bob Zemer. GJ Fantasia, that's a really cool one. I saw that when you guys toured Mott's facility. It's a really nice plant. Let's see.
And
Incredible Red Hulk.
You can definitely take your time because we're enjoying looking at all these different cultivars. Can you tell us how many plants are in each pot?
Oh, it depends on the size of the plant. Like some of these giants, it's hard for me to even get 4 in the pot because some of these get huge bulbs. And then some of the little freakier ones, for instance, Diabolic Horns, I think I have 9. So usually it's between 4 and 12, depending on the size of the clone.
And are you doing do you do leaf pulls or tissue culture
A
like
little both. When
to
I repot,
establish?
I'll usually tear off the backside of the bulb and maybe a leaf or two if I want to get more to clone. But once I have a decent sized specimen to work with, I'll typically just use plant parts to make tissue culture and then come back up and fill my mother pot and then offer whatever spares I have after that. So on the Flytrap store.
Now,
So
there's a heated debate about if you should allow a Venus flytrap to flower.
yeah,
And we would like to remind everyone that in the wild, they do flower.
yep.
But what, if you're like a newbie, what would you recommend, Matt?
I usually recommend pinching them off. It really depends on what your goals are. If you want to try to get seed, it's really cool to grow from seed. So I try to encourage that. But a lot of people who aren't who are new to the hobby don't necessarily take the best care of the plant, and they're not going to be in a robust enough health to flower safely. So you may end up losing the primary plant. Usually they'll grow back from like the backside of the bulb, but a lot of times you'll end up losing the entire plant if you let it flower when it's unhealthy. So uh, usually if the plant's small, I'll pinch, or if I don't want the seed, I'll pinch. But otherwise, I usually let them go to seed, and then I try to make crosses. Here's DCXL spring trap, really nice plant, and Kronos is right behind it. SD Kronos, Steve Dunan's giant. I've grown a lot of giants, and I still think Steve got the winner on this one. This is probably my favorite giant fly trap. Um, this is also a really, really nice plant here. This is whip snapper. So that's one of the originals, probably one of the oldest plants in circulation too. That's from Bob Hanrahan of World Insectivorous Plants. Um, I think Bob passed away a few years ago, but he had sent those plants to Steve Dunan, and I used to work with Steve in the early 2010s, and he sent me all 4 clones. So we have them here now. I think this is Whip Slim, which is also a really nice plant. Whip Slim Snapper and Whip Snapper, and I'm trying to get them distributed. Whip Snapper and Whip Big Red are probably the least 2 distributed, but let's see if I got a pot of Whip Big Red over here. It's Whip Long. It gets really, really long petioles in the spring. And this is Big Red, which doesn't get super red, but it can in the fall color up quite nicely. And it's another nice giant fly trap. So those are the 4 selections by Bob Hanrahan.
And what you just mentioned is we kind of see like these short rosettes, but then there's a couple of really tall traps, and that's
Yeah,
because it's spring.
yeah, that's right. They yeah, right now they're just starting to send up their first spring traps. I guess they started about a week and a half ago or 2, and then the flower stalks come next. So most of the traps that you see that are upright are just started. So let me turn it back around. So yeah, these smaller traps down here, the low-lying rosettes, these tiny traps, those were all spring or fall and winter traps. And then these first traps of the spring are these nice big ones. And since I'm not cutting these flower stalks, these plants will basically stall for about 6 weeks and then set seed, and then they'll pick up again. And by the end of summer, they'll look really good. But after they flower, they don't look so good for a little while. So this table over here are a bunch of new clones that I'm either in the process of naming and distributing or evaluating to distribute. I've been trying to make an all red werewolf of my own. I really do like the ones that Carnivoria grew. So I keep crossing plants with like all red giant and FTS maroon monster, but I can't get a red one. These are all seed grown that I have that are, they kind of color up and look pretty nice, but I haven't got an all red one. So I'm going to start doing some back crossing. Like you can see some of them are flowering this year. So I should be able to back cross some of these and hopefully I'll get a red out of there. Here's a really nice mirror type one I grew from seed. I think we'll offer it this year. I went ahead and named it FTS Loopy Mirror, but it's got some crazy flanging on it.
So
really
that
nice.
one was mirror times self.
You know what? It actually came out of a werewolf seedling batch. WWS means werewolf seedling. So it must have, sometimes they just cross. Usually I'll make dedicated crosses. I don't always keep track of exactly the parentage, but I'll usually try to make a cross that I know what I'm going for. And so like last year, for example, I crossed a bunch of scaling type plants like Steel and Church of All Times coquillage, and I crossed them with all kinds of red plants. And I'm trying to get a all red Steel this year. I also crossed, like, this is Ramis down here, and I crossed him with a bunch of red plants too. Nice cashew shaped traps on these guys. So yeah, I'll make crosses and try to get something desirable. But sorry, did that answer your question? Was that
Yeah.
okay?
Danielle or Daniel would like to know, does the traps of the mirror cultivar close?
Yes. Yeah, actually it's got a fly. This one has a fly in it right now, I think. Yeah. I might be able to hold it up to the sunlight and see. I don't think it's going to come across in the video, but yes, it does.
But
It's very,
but not
yeah.
the side traps.
No, the side traps, these are all just extra flanges and weird looking growths basically that make it look more interesting and crazy.
And then when you were saying you're going to breed, like you're trying to get a red werewolf, you
Yeah.
have 200 or 500 seeds, and those are under your grow lights, or you surface sowed them somewhere?
No, I tissue culture. When I start seed, other than when I'm trying to get a new giant, I'll start seed and tissue culture just because it speeds the process up immensely. Within a year, I can have 50 plants from one seed that are pretty large. Whereas if you grow from seed the old-fashioned way, it takes a while. You can do things to speed it up, but it takes a long time. So
Now, this is also a reoccurring question, but are there like the mirror one or the ones that have scaly petioles or pom-poms, definitely pom-poms?
Yeah. There's
Do
the
they
one with scaling.
like when do they show their traits, or is it okay if they
Yeah,
don't show their traits?
the scaling is consistent on most of the scaling clones. The pom poms, let me see if I can find it. St. Patrick's beard is somewhere over here. There it is. So you can see I let it. This one's flowering, and I'm gonna let that go to seed. And I let another one over here. It's a GJ hedgehog, which is also a pom pom, but neither of the flowering specimens are showing pom pom traps. But the one behind it, you can see has a lot of pom pom traps on it. So they just kind of do it whenever they feel like it. That's what Matse says, and that's what my experience has been too, is that they just seem to create pom poms intermittently, and you never really know. It doesn't seem to correlate with spring, fall, midsummer. So they just sometimes transition to doing it, and then they'll do it for a little while, and then they'll go back to looking normal. But the scaling fly traps, most of those look consistently scaly.
All right, Bonnie would like to know if she has like a 3-year-old fly trap, but it's kind of like stalling in size and it like won't get bigger. What do you do?
Well, if it depends on where you're growing it. If it's outside and it's catching prey, it should size up on its own. If it doesn't, that might mean it's just not a very big clone. So it might mean that it just doesn't have the genetics to get big.
Mm-hmm.
Some plants get big and others always stay small. So this is a type of cup trap, and I think this is about as big as it gets. That's GJ Colibri. And then right behind it is GJ Green Zebra, which is actually a quite large plant. So in terms of making plants size up, if they catch bugs or if you feed them, they grow way faster. And if you are sure the care is good and you're consistently giving it plenty of sunlight and feeding it and it just won't size up, then it's probably just not a big plant.
And what about new soil? How often do you repot?
Flytraps like to be repotted annually, at least. And we use peat moss here. When we were in Oregon, they actually grew better in the long fiber sphagnum. It's interesting how the climate can make a difference. I think they just generally go faster in the long fiber sphagnum, but it's quite pricey, and we can get away with peat here. They grow very well in peat, so we switched back to using peat. And I just finished this, and all these tables I just finished repotting about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Maybe, man, not even 3 weeks, 2 weeks ago probably. And I do it every year. Every pot in my personal collection gets repotted every year. And Leah, as she works through orders, typically tries to pick out pots that haven't been repotted for a while, and then she'll grab them and work through those. So basically, Flytraps, every year we repot them.
And 2 to 3 weeks ago, when you repotted them, how did the plants look? Very similar to this, or were they just short rosettes?
They were starting to come out a little bit, which is why I kind of panicked and got them all repotted as much as I could. I had a lot that I wanted to do, and I got most of it done this winter, but most of them were still hunkered down pretty good. But I started seeing a few flower stalks come up, and some spring traps starting to emerge. So I knew I had to get it done. So I hadn't even cleaned them. They still had mostly dead traps on them. So it just looked like 2 benches of Black Death before I started repotting. But they look quite good now. It's kind of amazing to watch the transformation. And the Sarracenia are even more extreme. They go from nothing, you trim them all the way back to the bulb, and then in a matter of 2 weeks, you've got a greenhouse full of foliage. It's really cool to be in the greenhouse when that happens. So, yep. So I guess I can make my way over to the Sarracenia, unless we want to keep looking at the Flytraps. Anything anyone wants to see in particular, or these white pots, they're made of just plastic. So these over here are insulated polyurethane foam, and honestly, I probably should paint them to make them look more attractive. I've had these since 2009 or 10. I just reuse them annually, and they're great pots. They're the best you can get for insulation, and the plants love them. You can see the plants grow way better in them. But these white pots are friendly for space conservation. And so these are just 5x5x7 square white pots made of plastic.
That you can probably get a hydroponic store.
Yep. Yeah, we order at the hydroponic store. We sell them in small quantities too on our website for hobbyists if they want to do that. I think you can buy a pack of 100 for like $150, something like that. So,
and they last much longer than your 3-inch black.
Yes. Yeah, those black thermoforms, these guys here, they do not last terribly long. Once you repot a couple of times, you end up cracking them, and then they're no good. But yeah. So
can I go back to what you said about Leah? Leah, when you get an order, this is of interest to me, and I hope it's to interest of other people as well.
Yeah.
But when you get an order, do you ship bare root or potted?
We offer both. So
okay.
At the time that the person is selecting the product they want, they can choose the size of the plant, and in addition, they can choose whether they want it potted in long fiber sphagnum, potted in peat, or bare root. So
and then do you pull them, every couple of days and ship on certain days, or do you pull them all on like Sunday and ship on Monday?
It depends on the time of year. This time of year, we're so busy. We're doing every day. I forgot to show, we had a bunch of boxes going out there on the porch. We're filling, I would guess Leah puts out this time of year probably at least 20 plants a day. And the potted ones obviously take longer. So a lot of her day can be eaten up with potting and repotting. But yeah, in the fall and winter, sometimes we'll skip a day or two just to minimize how much time we're spending doing orders versus repotting. But so I'm meandering over here to some Sarracenia, and these are all Leucophilas and Leucophila hybrids. This is my personal collection of plants. So a lot of these I will be offering later this year. This is Daisy J. It's a Hurricane Creek White Cross Day and Delight that Eric had in his collection. I really like that one. Whole bunch of Hurricane Creek Whites, different types. I really like this red Leucophila here. The wide mouth on it is just stunning on that one. I think it's called Dark Red from Covington County. So more Leucophila. There's a huge pot of Daisy J right there. Wilkerson's Red Rocket, which for me hasn't gotten super red. This is the FTS Hurricane Creek White. And these guys, I just split a huge bulb and filled that pot with it. So they're not looking too big yet, but next year that pot should look amazing. This is probably one of my all-time favorite carnivorous plants, period, but certainly Sarracenia. This is Leah Wilkerson. And I just love the color, the shape of the pictures, how sturdy they are, how big it gets. It's just a great plant. And then right next to it here.
Of course, your Wi-Fi got a little blurry.
Oh, did it on the
Yeah,
Leah?
but if I think it's a little better now. For these,
okay.
Yeah, you just stay there. For those big pots, can you talk about how you're watering them? Because we see that the other plants are doing the tray method, but what about these pots?
Yeah. These pots, I just top water every couple days. I drill the hole maybe 3 or 4 inches off the bottom on all these pots. And then I just top water till it flows out the bottom, and it keeps that little bit of reservoir in the bottom. And it usually lasts them at least 2 or 3 days, even in the hottest, driest time of the year. So this big beast is Saurus. That's Phil Fossili's really nice plant. And this is a sibling of Saurus, which is also a beast of a plant. Wakama, one of the best all red flavas. A whole smattering of flavas. This is not my personal collection. These are all stuff that I repotted this winter that we'll have for sale. But a whole bunch of yellow. These are Rugelii up here. Bunch of seedlings. More seedlings. More seedlings. I got a lot of these. All need to be repotted. That's why they're up here and not down in the big greenhouse. But this is my personal collection bench. The red flavas this year are really looking good. These guys are just gorgeous. I love the contrast on the yellow hood and the red body. I've usually, over the years, I've primarily focused on flytraps, but now that we have more space, I've really expanded my Sarracenia collection, and I just love them. In the spring in particular, it's so awesome when they come out. So just beautiful.
Ray would like for you to explain a little bit more about feeding them. You kind of mentioned like you take some outside?
Yeah, the flytraps.
Yeah.
I try to get the flytraps out as much as I can. And down there on the patio and deck, there are quite a few bugs. So most of the time, all the traps are closed. The Sarracenia, they do good if they eat a lot, but they also just grow super fast on their own, and they do take fertilizer quite well. So I usually fertilize the Sarracenia quite hard. About 3 or 4 times a year, I'll give them full strength fertilizer. And then the flytraps, I've tried fertilizing them several times over the years, and I really haven't seen much of a difference. I've done controlled experiments, and I know some people swear by Maxi. I've tried Maxi and another fertilizer I like for Sarracenia, and I've done it side by side with the control trays and experimental trays, and I haven't noticed any difference other than you get a lot of algae and carpet moss with the fertilizer, which can set flytraps back. So I've just stopped even trying to fertilize flytraps. But Sarracenia will take it, and they're strong enough, even if they get quite a bit of carpet moss on them, they can push it around. Whereas flytraps tend to fight it harder, and they don't do quite as well. So
what's the fertilizer for the Sarracenia?
What's that?
What's the fertilizer that you're using for Sarracenia?
I use kind of a crazy mix of a bunch of different stuff. In terms of nitrogen, I use Dynagrow Foliage Pro, and then I've been trying to avoid showing my messy work area, but I'll show you. let's see. So it's now called Super Thrive Foliage Pro. And you use a teaspoon per gallon of that. And then Kelp Blast, which is also uh, so the Maxi that most people use is primarily kelp and nitrogen, I think. But so I use several different products. But anyway, the primary nitrogen one is uh, that Dynagrow Foliage Pro, which now is labeled Super Thrive Foliage Pro. And then I use those other two products I just showed, the Soil Blast and the Kelp Blast, and I mix that in a gallon. And every time I repot, I use it. And anytime in the spring, right as the pictures start coming out, I'll hit them pretty heavy. And then I'll do it again midsummer, and then usually in the fall before the Leucophila put out their best pictures. But
So when you repot them, you kind of like water the soil with the fertilizer?
yeah, so as I repot the Sarracenia, I'll often use rooting hormone for the Sarracenia too, but I use this, I like using a turkey baster, and I'll have a jug of fertilizer up here with it. And so I just take that and baste it as I pot it. I'll usually maybe 2 or 3 basters full, and then around the roots as I'm potting it. So there's a couple other products I use too. I could show them all if people are interested, but it's a lot of stuff I use, like mycorrhiza, and so there's a mycoblast, and then a something that's a root stimulant, and I use a little bit of the Super Thrive, the vitamin B formula that is common. And yeah, so I mix about 6 or 8 things together, and when I repot Sarracenia, I use it on all of them. So
How long have you been doing that?
probably 5 years, something like that. So I tend to get pretty good results with the Sarracenia with the fertilizer. And like I said, I've just not found the right mix, or I'm not doing something right when I fertilize Flytraps, because I've heard people say they've got really good results, but I have not. But the pitcher plants, they can take fertilizer for sure.
Well, the collection looks beautiful.
Thank you. Like I said, I got lucky with the time of year.
Could you maybe go real slow and show us a couple more like really bizarre fly traps?
Sure. Yeah, let me walk over there.
Do you have any variegated ones?
I do. The only one I grow right now that's variegated is scarlatine.
Mm-hmm.
I think I still have spotty, but it stopped being variegated for me. So I've got a pretty good sized pot of scarlatine over here.
Do you
And
know,
actually,
I'm sure you know, but do you know the Venus flytrap Ghost?
I have that one, yes, and I have Aurora Borealis, both those that have kind of whitish traps.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me show Ghost. I just got that one from Deflora recently. Where is the other?
Do
Let's
you
see,
know,
spotty.
so I got maybe like 15 Ghost in January,
Okay.
and they all have very tall spring traps, and they all have that white on the inside. But I was showing it to somebody else, and they were saying that it just looks like a plant that needs more nutrients.
Yeah, it does. It kind of looks like it's just sick, like a
Yes,
yellow, like it needs more nitrogen.
exactly.
Yeah. So this is spotty for me, and I've been growing this exact same plant, not tissue cultured or anything. I sourced it from Europe, I think in 2009 or 10, and it just lost all of its spots for me. It used to look almost like scarlatine with the variegation. So this is scarlatine here. I don't know if the variegation's coming through in the video, but
On the
um,
inside of the mouths.
yeah, it actually comes. So that trap, you can see it on the inside, and it does spot on the outside as well. Trying to get an angle right, so you can see spots kind of just sprinkled throughout the trap. And honestly, that is the best variegated fly trap I've grown. I just got that. There's another one from DeFlora called Variegata something or other. Gosh dang it.
Mhm.
There it is. It doesn't look too variegated to me. Um, they call it Variegata Gialla. Um, but I haven't really noticed any variegation on it much at all. And then you asked about Ghost. So yeah, Ghost just looks like a sickly fly trap, really. Yellow traps, but it definitely. Let me see if I can find the after I show this one. I'll see if I can find. So I just got these from DeFlora also, oh maybe a month or two ago, and um, let's see if I can find the Aurora Borealis. Oh, I don't see it. So the Carnivoria clones are ones I don't really have organized well by alphabetical. There it is. So it looks similar to Ghost, but it's whiter, I think, and it's a little more vigorous. Like I said, I've only had Ghost a little while, so I have to evaluate that fully. But um, yeah, Aurora Borealis is actually fairly vigorous for as yellow and light green colored as it is. Um, is that coming through okay in the video?
It's a little blurry, but we see the color change.
Okay, maybe I was too close.
What about do you have any melty traps? Like,
Melty, like fondue.
yeah, like a fused melty look.
Well, I kind of like. It made me think of GJ Giant Kudo. They kind of look melty to me, the way they trap shape.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Let me think about any. Well, a lot of those werewolf clones have kind of melty traps on them. So I guess diabolic horns a little bit. I showed that earlier. See if I can find something over here. Dambala is a really nice one. I don't know. It does not. I wouldn't call it melty, but another werewolf type plant. Yeah. So what clone were you thinking of when you say melty? Or did you have any in mind?
Like I know D-Flora has that green dog,
Green dog. Yeah, I haven't got that one yet.
or I don't know, maybe like a fused tooth or something that's like thick cilia.
Okay. Yeah, the fused tooth here. This is the original fused tooth. I still honestly I've grown fused tooth extreme. What's a fuzzy tooth? A bunch of different types of fused, and this one is still the best. It does the best in the fall, so most of these traps now look more typical, but you can still see some fusing on the teeth. So
And does that stay rosetted during the spring and summer, or does it
it
get
does.
upright?
No, it doesn't go upright at all. Yeah, it's pretty much entirely a low growing plant that gets really nice color, and it's quite vigorous too. It struggles a little bit in the fall with catching bugs because the fusing gets so extreme on it. Sometimes the traps won't close properly, but it's a really nice plant for sure.
Now I just saw a fly in your greenhouse.
Oh, there are, if I had a better audio, you could hear the entire thing is buzzing. They're up in the roof, hitting against the top. It sounds like something pinging against the top of the plastic. So there are a lot of bugs in here right now.
Because they're attracted to the plants or another reason?
I think it's both. I think the smell initially draws them in, and then it's warm and humid in here, so they like that this time of year because it's pretty warm outside today for early April. It's about probably 75, and but the humidity's low, and it was overcast most of the morning, so it's not too terribly hot in here. Although I'm pretty much dripping sweat now. So um, yeah, I think they're drawn initially by the smell of the plants, and then once they get in here, they like it, so they stay.
uh, ICPS member Maggie Chen, she she either told me in an interview or she told us in a ICPS video that she puts all of her fly traps on a table and she puts all of her dog poop bags underneath the table. Like she basically like puts her trash, she stores it there for a week
Yep.
and to bring the flies in. So I think that tip and putting fertilizer in a turkey baster, I think those are well worth everyone's time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think old school, he's an ICPS member too, or at least he used to be. DC of DCXL, David Connor, he used to collect like old tuna fish cans and put them in his greenhouse to draw in more flies, he said. So.
mm. So Matt, we only have like 5 more minutes.
Okay.
Joy would like to see all of your fertilizer things, and I think maybe if you could just give us the list,
Yes, I can do that.
verbally.
Mycoblast, Soil Blast, and Kelp Blast. Am I still there?
Yes.
Okay. Foliage Pro, KLN Rooting Hormone, Super Thrive. And unfortunately, I don't have the labeled version of it up here. I put it in an alcohol bottle, but it's called Protect, Protekt. Same makers as Super Thrive, and this is what you use to help root stimulation. It's basically all silica.
And you're following the directions for all of these. You're not diluting them or anything.
Nope, full strength. So Super Thrive, Foliage Pro, 1 teaspoon per gallon. Protect, I go half a teaspoon. Both of these, it's just 1 milliliter per gallon. This is basically a B vitamin that helps reduce root shock when you transplant. And this helps them stimulate some root growth. And then the other 3 products from Growers Supreme or Supreme Growers, those are all 1 teaspoon per gallon. And the Mycoblast, you only use it when you're initially repot. And then when I do my intermittent fertilizing, I don't use it again.
And then you're just, when you have the bare root plant, you're just, covering the rhizome and the root, and then that's it.
Yep. I usually take that turkey baster and just drizzle it over the top of the rhizome, make sure it covers the roots well, and try to get the soil saturated around where it's going to rest in the soil, and then or in the pot. Oh, this is a nice tarnock flower here. So yeah, just make sure you cover the rhizome and the roots and try to get the soil a little saturated. And that's what I do when I repot. And then when I fertilize, I really just fill up the entire tray with that dosage of everything minus the Mycoblast.
Are you using any perlite?
I do use perlite. So the big bag over there, the white bag next to the yellow fan, is the perlite I'm using. And I had trouble sourcing it here locally, so I ended up buying a whole pallet from this PVP Industries. And I actually got what they call medium grade, which I like better. It doesn't float as bad. So if in those heavy rains in Florida, the white perlite usually comes to the top. This stuff is really small and it tends to stay in the soil better. So and compared to what I could get in Oregon, I was just getting the coarse grade there, and it would float pretty bad. And then switch to this here, and then the sand I get is it's actually bigger grain than I was able to get in Oregon, and it works great. So I use bigger sand and smaller perlite, and I'm really happy with how it keeps the soil nice and airy, and you don't get the bad floating from the perlite. It stays pretty nice and clean.
Mm-hmm.
So. Any other questions? It's a nice one. That's Reptilian Rose there. I like this bright gold colored one.
Kiana asks, how many species do you have? So I don't know if Kiana means cultivars or species, but go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I can answer both. I really let's see, I probably have close to 300 flytrap cultivars, I would guess. I haven't counted in a while. I don't try to get every single one that's named because there's a lot of them that I consider not worth growing. But I do try to get the ones that I find interesting and that I'd like to propagate and get out to people. So I probably say 300 flytrap cultivars. And then in terms of Sarracenia, I think I have one of every species, and I don't know how many species there are, but it's got to be in the dozens. And then the hybrids are unlimited. So I can't really answer how many species of Sarracenia I grow, but it's all of them, more or less. So some of the endangered species over here on the floor, that's Alabamensis back there I got from seed from the ICPS many years ago. And there's Sarracenia aureophila. Those are two endangered species. Yeah, lots and lots. And so this is a hybrid here. This is a Leucophila times an aureophila. Dana's Delight is a really beautiful hybrid. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, lots and lots of species, lots and lots of variety, especially for pitcher plants. Some of the shorter ones, the purpureas. A few purpureas here. Yeah. Adrian Slack, really nice hybrid.
Can you,
Black Widow.
we're basically out of time, but can you just mention how you're doing the tray method for these?
Yeah, so I don't do any automated watering. I like going around hand watering everything. I have a sump pump. I don't know if I think I might have shown the water cistern. So the water situation up here isn't as nice as it is down in the big greenhouse, but there's two water tanks here on the corner of that big pole barn, and there's two on the other corner. And so those usually fill after, if we get an inch of rain, they'll fill. And I have a sump pump in them, and I pump up and I use a hose to water everything. So I walk around and hand water all these trays depends on how hot and dry it gets, but usually in the summer it's every 2 to 3 days, and in the winter it's maybe once every 2 weeks, walking around and watering everything. And so I like spending time with the plants. I know that if I automated this, which wouldn't be impossible, it'd be much easier down in the big greenhouse. But I actually prefer to walk around and look at everything, spend a little time with them. It's easier to identify problems, and yeah, it's kind of therapy too for me to spend time with the plants while I'm watering them.
Mhm.
So,
All right, well, I think with that, we encourage everyone to use carnivorous plants as therapy, and we all enjoyed it. I think we were pretty quiet, Matt, because we were just in awe of the collection.
that's fine.
And
So thank you for inviting me to do this, and thank you for all you do for supporting the hobby. And I really like what you've done as your role there with the ICPS. So I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me.
thank you. And for everybody who's watching this as a recording or live, if you want to show off your greenhouse, nursery, plants, if you want to do a talk, a presentation, please send me a message at kenny@carnivorousplants.org, because I'm always looking for speakers. I'm available. So if you guys are willing, I'm happy to showcase your collection and what you're doing, and those little tidbits of, oh, I put my dog poop under the table, or, tuna fish cans. This is what the hobbyists and the growers like, because that's how we get beautiful plants like Matt's.
Yeah.
All right, well, everyone have a great day. And on May 1st, 2024, it is World Carnivorous Plant Day. So everyone should head over to the ICPS YouTube channel, where you will be able to see dozens of videos, all celebrating carnivorous plants. All right, thank you, Matt, once again, and everyone else have a great day.
Thanks,
It's
Kenny.
not a surprise
Thank you.
that gardeners, educators, and scientists are fascinated by these unique plants. The International Carnivorous Plant Society or ICPS, not only love these plants, but welcomes growers just getting started all the way through professional scientists. The ICPS even started an annual World Carnivorous Plant Day to celebrate them. The free online event is held the first Wednesday of May. Take a look around our website and you'll find historic documents about carnivorous plants, growing guides, free educational resources, and more. Have questions? Ask. We don't bite, but our plants do.